The banks made the rules. In this world of private money, you make the rules. Raise money when you don't need it. And here's the deal. The question is, well, who in the world, Jay, is going to loan you more money than you need to buy the house? And I can tell you, it's a private lender.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
YouTube, let's talk about OPM, other people's money. Now, if you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or even if you've just been around real estate investors for more than a minute, you've likely heard of this term, but I find a lot of newer investors are still really confused and intimidated by the idea of going out and asking friends and family for money when it comes to building their real estate portfolio or building the empire of real estate that they dream of. We need to understand, though, as investors, at the end of the day, you can't do this alone. No man is an island unto himself, and this is doubly true when it comes to real estate investing. Understand that the more leverage and the more access to leverage and debt we have, the greater the total assets we can control. And for a lot of investors that are still focused on the growth side of their real estate investing journey, getting access to OPM or other people's money is absolutely crucial and critical to your success long term. So in today's video, I catch up with an investor from the US, Jay, who's going to break down for us some of his best tips and tricks when it comes to raising OPM. What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and I'm really excited today. We've got Jay Conner. Jay, how's it going?
Hey, Matt, fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. And I'm really excited to have Jay on the channel because we're going to be talking about private money. And so this is a subject matter that I know a lot of my audience is mildly familiar with, but depending upon their experience in real estate investing, for a lot of the newer investors, private money is something that gets thrown around that sounds cool in theory, but doesn't feel like something they can actually get their hands on. So it's one of those things where you maybe listen to one webinar, see one YouTube video, or read one book, and they make it sound like there's all kinds of crazy private money out there. But then when it actually comes time to like go find it or go ask for it, that's where they really start second guessing themselves, getting lost in analysis paralysis and all that. So before we maybe dive into, what you recommend people do when it comes to finding that private money, Jay, could you just share with us some of your experiences with private money and why it's important to you and your personal real estate business model?
Absolutely, Matt. And I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to give a little background and a little context here. My wife, Carol Joy, and I started investing in single family houses back in 2003, full time. And our total investment area and time has been focused here in a very small populated area, only 40,000 people. And we don't do that many deals a month over all these years. We'll do 2 to 3 deals a month. But since I got into using private money back in 2009, our average profits per house, with only a median price of $225,000, our average profit is $67,000 per deal. And so private money, the first 6 years that we were investing in houses from 2003 to 2009, we relied on local banks, mortgage companies, traditional financing. And quite frankly, Matt, I didn't know anything about creative terms, like seller financing and subject to and wraparound mortgages and all that. I was just relying on local banks. And in January 2009, like the rest of the world, I got cut off with no notice. Boom. I had contracts. I had houses under contract, no way to fund them. And so I was introduced to this world of private money. And when I say private money, I don't mean hard money. I don't mean brokers. I don't mean institutions. I mean private money, doing business with individuals. I also call it relationship money, mom and pop money, if you will. And so it was a huge blessing in disguise to be cut off from the banks, because in less than 90 days, I was able to attract and raise $2,150,000 in funding from private money individuals that I didn't have. So as that was a challenge and actually a blessing in disguise. I tripled my business within the first 12 months of being, introduced to this world of private money. So what's the importance of it? Well, I know I know that the majority of the deals out there for people that are going to take them down and stay in them and not just wholesale a deal, which, if you stay in the deal, that's where the biggest profits are. Having the cash is what's required on most of the deals. So what's this world of private money done for me and my wife and our team and family? It has tripled our business. And since 2009, Matt, thanks to private money, I've never missed out on a deal or opportunity that I wanted to take advantage of.
That's awesome. And it's definitely a great point there about not missing out on opportunities. I think a lot of people that opt to only look towards the conventional channels for financing their deals, they often find that they have seasoning periods and different things like that they have to abide by, which sometimes really can put a kink into their deal funnel. Before kind of getting into your approach to private lending or private money borrowing, let's first talk about the options that an investor has. So when an investor is thinking about doing a deal, they've really got kind of two choices, right? They can either sell equity or raise debt. And so do you mind just kind of touching upon that and what your perspective is? It sounds like you're normally going the debt route.
Yeah. So right now I don't have to guess. I know the exact statistics. So first of all, here in the States, with the environment that we're in right now, finding a deal or finding a house for sale that can be a deal in the multiple listing service listed with a real estate agent or a bank-owned property, that's not where the deals are, right? Anything listed with a real estate agent, I look at and my students look at as a bonus. That's like a bonus. So the deals that we're finding, the majority of them are what we call off-market deals, or houses that people will sell that do not have them listed in the multiple listing service with a real estate agent. Well, here's the statistics after analyzing over 1,000 property lead sheets as of recent. And that is only 13% of all the leads that we get. And I'm a good negotiator, and my acquisitionist has been with me for over 12 years. We know what we're doing when it comes to building rapport and talking with a possible seller over the phone. Well, only 13% of those sellers that don't have houses listed in the multiple listing service will sell to us creatively. Sell using seller financing, subject to the existing note, wraparound mortgages, getting an option, controlling it on a lease option. Only 13%. That means 87% of those other leads, the majority of them, want all the cash. They want all the money, right? And one misconception that some real estate investors have, particularly newer real estate investors, is they may hear that, oh, I only need private money. I only need all the cash for ugly houses. I don't need the cash for what we call pretty deals or pretty houses. I can just buy those on terms. Well, if only 13% of the off-market sellers will sell to us creatively, how about those other 87%? Just last week, I went and looked at a house in Havelock, North Carolina, which is adjacent to where I live. And the after repaired value on that house is $150,000. The sellers are willing to sell it for their payoff of only $75,000. Their motivation is another story, but those are the dollars. And the renovation is less than $10,000. And so we negotiated, sell it to us on subject to the existing note or seller financing. No go, because they have a mortgage, a Veterans Administration mortgage on it. They need that paid off to go buy another house. The only way they would sell it to us is if we paid them with all the cash. So we're going to use the private money when the seller requires all the cash, regardless as to whether it's a beautiful house or an ugly house.
Okay, gotcha. And then when you're kind of putting together these deals, do you mind breaking down for us why you're choosing private money over, say, taking on a JV partner?
Oh, my lands. Well, I will tell you one thing good about a joint venture partner is there is no carrying cost, right? There's no unknown about how long you're going to be carrying, so there's no private lender to pay. However, the benefits and the reasons that I use private money over and beyond a hard money lender, which, by the way, we get, time permitting on your show, Matt, we could quickly get into the difference between hard money and private money. It's a huge difference. But why do I use private money? Well, here is the quick list. Number one, I get multiple checks on every transaction, every deal that I do, right? That's not going to happen with a joint venture partner, right? A private lender. So you say, how do I get multiple checks? In fact, this is my favorite reason for using private money. Number one, when do I get those multiple checks? Well, first of all, I get my first big check when I'm doing a private money deal when I buy the property. So how in the world does that work? It's because I always borrow more money than I need to buy the house, whether it's a rehab deal, an ugly house, or whether it's a pretty house. And here's the deal. The question is, well, who in the world, Jay, is going to loan you more money than you need to buy the house? And I can tell you, it's a private lender is who's going to do it, because it's a collateral loan, and I'm still going to be giving them equity in that deal to where they have very little risk. So first check, always borrow more. It's very common. My land's, Matt, right here in my desk drawer. Let me just look at the most recent check that I brought home. Right here, $58,000. I brought this check home. I bought this property on Chatham Street in Newport. I brought home a $58,000 check, and I took no money to the closing table out of my own pocket. Who wants to get paid $58,000 with no money out of your pocket to buy a house? I do. Now, am I going to bring home a $58,000 check from closing if there's not rehab involved? Of course not. I'm using the majority of that. I mean, the rehab's only $35,000. The rest of that money I pulled out was just a big chunk of equity that's like a big infusion into my checkbook, right? So I get a big check when I buy. If I sell on rent to own or lease purchase lease option, I'll get my second check with a large non-refundable option fee. And then whether I sell on rent to own or not, I'll get another big check when I cash out, which is the difference between what I sell the property for and what I owe my private lender. I just put a house on the market the end of this past week in Emerald Isle, North Carolina, $895,000. I bought it for $480,000. I put $125,000 renovation in it. I'm getting a big check here in about 3 weeks. The difference between what I sell it for and what I owe the private lender. So that's the first big reason why I love private money. And then quickly, Matt, because I know it's a short question with a long answer, why do I love private money over other funding? Multiple checks. Number two, no credit check. My credit has got nothing to do with how much private money I can get. Number three, I have no limit to the number of private lenders I can use. Well, as contrasting mortgage lenders, hard money brokers, there's always a limit. I have no limit to the number of private lenders I can use. No limit to the amount of private money I can get. I can get private money from any state in the United States. I can borrow private money across international lines. I can borrow from Canada. Canada can borrow from me. Number four, advance. How much advance do I get when I buy? I get over 100%, as I just mentioned, when I am buying the property. So again, there's more reasons, but those are the big reasons why I love private. Oh, close fast. On all my off-market deals, I tell them I can close in 7 days. 7 days. There's no way when we borrow money from a hard money lender or a conventional lender that you can close that fast. And so I get more offers accepted, Matt, from sellers than other real estate investors that offer more money, because I can close fast and they get their money quick.
Love it. Yeah, the flexibility that comes along with private financing is just, it allows you to get so much more creative and really solve problems, which is a big theme we talk about all the time on my YouTube channel. So I'd love to revisit, you kind of made a slight distinction there between hard money lenders and private lenders. And I'm sure some of my audience won't realize the subtlety of the distinction you're making. So if you don't mind explaining that a bit further.
I'm glad you opened me up for that, because not only is it subtle, it's huge. So again, first off, the difference between private money and hard money is hard money most of the time is most of the time is institutional money, or it's a broker of money that has gone out and actually raised private money versus doing business directly with the lender. So what I do and what I teach and coach real estate investors on is how to circumvent the broker who is just making money on money and just go straight to the sources. How do you find those people, right? So here's the distinctions. First of all, interest rate. Oh my lands, interest rate. So here in the United States right now, the average interest rate from a hard money lender is 14%. Some are a lot higher, some are lower, but the average 14%. Private money right now is 7%. 7%. Huge difference right there on interest rate. Second big distinction is origination fees or points, right? So the average number of points origination fees right now on hard money lenders is 4 points or 4%. In other words, you borrow $100,000, you got to bring $4,000 to closing to close that deal, origination fees. The world of private money, 0 points, right? Third distinction is the length of the note. Well, length of the note on hard money is 6 months to 1 year. You got to flip that baby, or you got to pay it off or go find somebody else to refinance it. In my world of private money, the term is 2 years to 5 years, okay? So if it's liquid capital and not retirement funds, the notes are 2 years. But in this world of private money, they don't want their money back anyway, right? They want you to keep the money and keep using the money. We do 5-year notes if it is retirement funds. And that's a whole nother podcast show right there, Matt, on self-directed IRAs and becoming educated on that. Like over half of my private lenders are using their retirement funds in the self-directed IRAs. But so anyway, interest rate, origination fees, and then extension fees. So in the world of hard money, if you haven't cashed out in 6 months or a year, there's a good possibility they will extend your note. But what do they want? More money, right? So the average extension fee is 2%. Well, when you take 14%, 4 points, and 2 points or 2% extension, we're already up to 20% the first year with hard money. In the world of private money, we're still at 7%. And then my biggest advantage and benefit to private money is how much money you get when you buy. How much will they advance? The average hard money lender in the U.S. right now will only advance 80% of the purchase price, no matter how good the deal is. Who's got to come up with the other 20%? We do, real estate investor. But in this world of private money, we get 100% of our purchase. If there's rehab involved, we get 100% of rehab, and we don't have to pull any money out of our pocket. It's all funded by the private money lenders. Hallelujah.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. That distinction is really important to make between hard money and private lenders. You know, hard money, I really view as being in the business of lending money. And so it's very cutthroat and competitive, and there's not the same room for negotiation or creativity that you get with private lending when you're dealing directly with that private lender. It's much easier to take what you're trying to accomplish and model the way you borrow or the way it gets lent to you in alignment with that. So yeah, I really love that. Do you mind building upon why do people want to privately lend to you? Like, why do people want to be private lenders?
Sure. So as we just pointed out, we know why we want to borrow private money, but why would a private lender want to do business with us? 3 big reasons. Number one, the interest rate. I mean, right now, here in the U.S., due to the environment we're in, Did you know the average 12-month certificate of deposit yield at the local bank is 0.22%? As of last week, 0.22%. So we come along and pay a private lender 7% or even 8%. That's more than 20 times as much as they're going to get in the local, bank for a 1-year certificate of deposit. The second reason is that it is safe and secure. Now, how is this deal safe and secure? Number one, we don't borrow unsecured money. We don't borrow unsecured funds. The private lender is going to get a mortgage or deed of trust, depending on, the document that's used in the state or wherever you are there in Canada. You're going to get it collateralized. They get it collateralized. So it's secure. Their loan is secure and it's safe, because typically we don't borrow more than 75 or 80% of the after repaired value of the house. Now, if it's a pretty house and it doesn't need any rehab, not going to have any carrying costs, we can go right on up to 85, 90% of the value, because we're able to occupy the home so quickly with a rent-to-own buyer. And then the third reason is that our private lenders love doing business with us is because their loan or their principal loan amount is not volatile. Now, what am I contrasting that to? The stock market, right? So is the stock market volatile? My lands, absolutely. I mean, immediately after you invest in the stock market, you lost money. There's fees, there's commissions, and what you invest in, the principal investment amount could be less in value tomorrow. But in this world of private money, the principal loan amount remains the same until cash out. Why is that important to the private lender? They don't have to worry about anything coming out of their principal loan amount, and they know exactly what their return is going to be. So it gives them that security and confidence as to what they're going to earn on their investment. And it just helps them sleep at night. Invest in the stock market, you don't know what your stuff is going to be worth tomorrow. So high interest rate, high return, safe and secure, and not volatile.
Awesome. Love it. So where are you finding these private lenders? And where should the audience turn to when they're trying to find private lenders?
Sure. So there's 3 categories of finding private money. Here's the 3 categories. Number 1 is what I call your current warm market, your current center of influence, your current contacts. And I'm going to talk about each of these quickly. Number 2 is what I call your new market. I say, some of my students say, Jay, my warm market is broke. My people ain't got no money, right? I don't know nobody with money. Well, first of all, I don't believe you, but I know why you're saying that. We'll talk about that in a second. So your current contacts, your new market, your expanded market, and third category are existing private lenders. How do you find them people that's already loaning money out and they know what private money is? I don't have to educate them people. So let me talk about each of those 3 categories quickly. First category, your existing market. So everybody in your cell phone is either a potential private lender or they know people that would love to learn about private money. Now, let me step back for just a quick second and frame this whole scenario. You see, I teach real estate investors how to do this business like I do, and that is, did you know I have never asked anybody for money? I've never asked a private lender for money. I put on my education hat. I become a teacher, and I teach people what private money is. In this environment, I teach them on Zoom. I do group Zoom meetings, right? I don't have to do in-person private lender luncheons or whatever. I don't have to go do a one-on-one. I'll do Zoom groups. So I teach people. I've never asked them for money, because when you ask for money, you're already compromising your position. You see, when people learn about private money and you know the program that you're offering, You see, these private lenders are not offering you terms. You see, there's another distinction. When I used to borrow money from the banks made the rules. In this world of private money, you make the rules. We make the rules. We set the interest rate. We set the term. Here's the program. And I tell you, after the private lenders hear how the program is and how it works and what it is, if they've got investment capital or retirement funds, I promise you they are interested, and they want to do business with you. So back to the three categories: people, your contacts, right? Your email list, your Facebook friends. And I don't mean your fake Facebook friends. I mean people that you actually have contacts with. And so I have a 5-step method that, of course, we don't have time to get into here on the show, but I got a 5-step method on how it is that you go through the process of reaching out to your warm market and educating them, and then that leading to you actually getting verbal pledges of people saying, Jay, go find us a deal to do, for me to fund. So your existing warm market. And then people say, well, I don't have many contacts. Well, I say, go to where the money is, because the more money you roll in, the more sticks to you, right? So where do you go? So I teach my students to do what I do and what I've done. Go and get involved in the civic clubs, get involved in the Rotary clubs, and be a server and educate people again on what private money is. Get involved in Business Networking International. Get involved in BizConnect, in the networking groups. Educate your networking group on what private money is, and now the money starts chasing you. Third category, existing private lenders. Existing private lenders, when you're borrowing secured funds, they're all on public record, right? So public record. When I started out, I hired my real estate attorney's paralegal to search the public records every month for people, individuals in our local area that had loaned money out collateralized by real estate. Then I contact those people, and now I don't educate them on private money. They know what private money is. Now it's an interview process. How much are you accustomed to getting? And when they now tell me they're happy with 5%, I don't try to talk them into 7%, right? So, of course, people that come into my world, I've created a software, or my team has. I am not a technological guy, but I know how to find the people that are. So I have my private lender data feed that we update every month of every private lender loan that has taken place all over the nation. And so that's much easier and quicker to get to existing private lenders than to actually search the public records. But those are the three categories.
Got you. Yeah, that's a really interesting way to present it. Appreciate you laying it out for us. So you touched upon briefly how you approach that conversation as an educator. Do you mind just exploring a bit further? Like, what do you actually say to a private lender when you're trying to raise that capital?
Sure. So an example script or conversation that, might be taking place over the phone or whatever. Let's say that I'm just calling up my existing warm market, right? I've identified some folks I want to call. Again, I'm not begging. I'm not chasing. I'm not selling. This first initial call is really a pre-qualification, right? And so it might go like this. I might, dial the phone, and let's say I'm calling up someone I know by the name of Wayne, and I've known Wayne for a while. Wayne gets on the phone, and I might say, hey, Wayne, this is Jay. How you doing today? Well, hey, Jay, I'm doing great. Maybe I haven't talked to Wayne in a while, and maybe where he lives, he can still play golf in the midst of all this craziness. I'll say, hey, Wayne, how's your golf game? Fantastic. How are the grandkids? Super. A little bit of chit-chat, but don't chit-chat long, because you need to get right to it. People are busy. And I may say something like, well, Wayne, as you may know, these days I'm investing in single-family houses, or, whatever real estate you're investing in, because this world of private money, Matt, as you know, works for single-family houses, and it works for commercial. It works for small apartments, duplexes, etc. So, as you know, I'm investing in real estate these days, Wayne, and I am now in the midst of taking advantage of the tidal wave of foreclosures that are coming about, and there's going to be a big opportunity to serve a lot of people. As a result, Wayne, I've decided to open up my business to people that I know and trust. There's an important phrase right there. I've decided to open up my business to people that I know and trust. So what I'm doing, Wayne, is I am paying people ridiculous high rates of return. But again, this program is only for people that I know. And in fact, Wayne, this program may not be for you. But Wayne, unless you answer yes to the following question, there's really no need for me to give you any more information. And the question is, do you have investment capital or retirement funds not giving you a high rate of return safely and securely? Now, after I call that the magic question, do you have investment capital or retirement funds not giving you a high rate of return safely and securely? Now, if they say no, I know they're broke because 0.22% is not a high rate of return. But if they say yes, then my next step, which is step 3 in the warm market, is I email them or text them my 16-minute audio called Stress-Free Investing, which introduces them to the world of private money. But you know, Matt, that's what we call the direct approach. My guess is you have a good share of your audience that knows people, that has money, that might be intimidated to ask that direct question. So if you've got another 60 seconds, I'll share with what I call the indirect method. All right?
Let's do it.
The indirect method is what most of my students absolutely love. And it's actually how I got my first private lender to loan me $250,000 without me asking for any money.
Do you want to get control of your financial life? Do you want to crush it in real estate with wholesaling? Do you want to join my full-time team of wholesalers like Mike? Or Shahir? Or what about Tyler? Or Diego? Or what about Amar? All right, and what do we do, boys?
We make offers, we buy fast, never gonna miss a deal cause we pay cash. Offers, 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 deals, deals, deals. Tell us, Mr. Seller, what price do you feel? Cause we're Southwestern's biggest source of deals. Boom!
So if you guys want to crush it with wholesaling, you need to join my team. And down below, video description, there's all the links you need.
The indirect method is what most of my students absolutely love. And it's actually how I got my first private lender to loan me $250,000 without me asking for any money. Here's the indirect method. So I know this person. We've been going to church for years. So we've got the trust, we got the relationship. And it was on a Wednesday night at Bible study at church. And I walked into the church building in the foyer and I walked up to him and I said, have you got a couple of minutes to visit with me on something confidential after Bible study? He said, well, yeah. So I said, great. So we go sit down, an hour goes by. I promise you this individual for an hour did not hear any word of God because he's been thinking for an hour, what's so confidential that Jay's got to talk to me about? So at the end, he comes running over to me. We go to one of the classrooms. He says, what you got in mind? Here's the indirect approach. And I said to him, I said, you know everybody in this town. You've been in business for yourself for decades. You're plugged into the Rotary Club, and I need your help. Wow. Is that an important phrase? I need your help. And here's how I need your help. I'm now opening up my real estate investing business, and it's by referral only. And I'm now paying high rates of return to people that I got some kind of connection with by referral. And so when you run across someone that's not happy with their rates of return on certificates of deposit or the retirement funds, would you refer them to me and I can tell them about my program and how they can get really, really high rates of return safely and securely? He looked at me and guess what he said? He says, well, what are you talking about? What kind of rate of return are you talking about? See, I knew he was loaded, but I'm not asking him directly, right? I'm asking him for his help. I said, what kind of rate of return you got? I said, well, it sort of depends on the deal. What would sound high to you? Now, this was in 2009 when I got cut off from the banks. He said, well, me and my wife are only making about 2%, 2.5% in the CDs. I guess high would be about 5%. And just to condense the conversation, Matt, I said, well, I can't pay you 5%, but I can pay you 8%. That led to a one-on-one meeting at their house, and they became my first $250,000 private lender, and I paid them 8%. So by asking for their help to spread the word, if they've got investment capital, they're in. But here's another magic secret sauce that I know we don't have time to go into on your show today. You got to be prepared to share your program. What interest rate are you paying? What are your terms? What's the length of note? What's your maximum loan to value? What's your geographical area? Because these are the questions they're going to ask that you need to be prepared to answer and share your complete program with them. But that's what it's all about. I mean, you're not selling anybody on a program. You're not selling them on a deal. In fact, man, I tell you what drives me crazy. Sometimes people will ask me, well, Jay, when you've got a deal to present to a private lender, how do you present the deal? My lands, you don't present the deal. There's no presentation. There's no, do you want to do this deal? That's a stupid question. Why would you ask your private lender, do you want to do this deal, when they already told you, I'm in on the program? Here's the secret. Don't present your program and a deal in the initial conversation. You just compromised your whole world. You're begging, right? I want to just talk about the program. Now they're in on the program. They tell me their range of investment. Now I'll call them back up and tell them 4 things. Here's the script. I got great news, Mr. Private Lender. For our first deal, I now can put your money to work. The after repaired value is X, 200,000. It's on a home located over in Newport. The funding required is $150,000. I know they got it. They already told me. The funding required is $150,000, and closing is a week from this Friday, which means I need you to have your funds wired to my real estate attorney's trust account by a week from Friday, and we'll be doing our first deal. That's it. There's no, oh, I don't know if I want to do this deal or not. You know, my lands, of course they do. I've never had since 2009 a private lender say, I don't want to do the deal. They already told me they want to do the deal. And of course, I'm not going to tell them what the next deal is unless it fits the criteria of the program. Boom.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of great tips sprinkled throughout there. But I think the most powerful takeaway, in my opinion, is that story of asking for advice and getting money. I know that there's a reoccurring theme amongst like startup companies and tech companies all the time that goes, if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. So I think that that's something I always try and keep in mind. And I love the way you've approached that with real estate investing.
Exactly. And, you know, to that point real quick, Matt, I'm glad you said that I love that. You want advice, ask for money. You want money, ask for advice. So I say put on my teacher hat, be a teacher. However, there may be some people in your audience's influence that they may be intimidated by even putting on a teacher hat. So put on your student hat, put on your mentoree hat and say, look, I've got a new program. I know you know all about business. I need your advice on my program that I've put together. There you go. So you can be a teacher or you can be a student asking for advice from someone about your program.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. So I know we're kind of coming up on time here. Just real quick, is there any other tips or tricks or suggestions you'd want to share with the audience before we wrap up when it comes to the world of private money raising?
Yes. Raise money when you don't need it.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you're raising, I mean, I'm raising money all the time. Like, you know, so have it just be part of you. Here's a big tip on how to raise money when you don't need it. I mean, there's always going to be deals. There's always going to be deals. And when you got money sitting on the shelf, burning a hole in your pocket, you think you're going to be more confident? You're going to attract more deals coming to you? But if you got this deal under contract and you don't have any way to fund it, that's like being in an Instant Pot pressure cooker, right? So here's a way you can be raising money all the time when you don't need it. So here's how I introduce myself and how I teach my students to introduce themselves all the time. When you meet somebody new, what's one of the first questions they ask you, and particularly in some kind of social network?
Yeah.
I mean,
What
Matt,
do you do?
what do you do? That's what they always ask you. What do you do? Wouldn't it be really cool, Matt, to answer that question in a way that's curious, arouses curiosity, would lead to a conversation, and lead to getting private money? Most people say, I'm a real estate investor. And the other person that asked the question in their mind is going, that's nice. Like, who really cares that you're a real estate investor? Or I'm an attorney, I'm a plumber, I'm an electrician, I'm a blah, 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 blah. Here's how you answer the question to what do you do? And the answer is, I teach private lenders how to make a lot of money. That's the answer. Now let's analyze that answer. I teach private lenders how to make a lot of money. Number one, they don't know what you said. They do not understand what you said. They did hear that you're a teacher. They also heard make a lot of money. But they don't know what that private lender thing is. So you tell them, I teach private lenders how to make a lot of money. And then shut up. Don't say a word. Just smile at them. And you'll get all kinds of responses like, what? What'd you say? What? You know? And if you don't get a response, that means they weren't listening and they just want to talk. But nonetheless, there's your answer. I teach private lenders how to make a lot of money. I can't tell you how many hundreds of thousands of dollars just answering that question with what do you do? So again, raise the money. There's no pressure. There's always deals. Get money on the shelf and never miss out on a deal again because you didn't have the money.
Love it. Yeah, that's a great networking tip. You always want to position yourself or answer that what do you do question where it's going to lead to another question, so it continues the narrative down the path that you were hoping to go. So absolutely love all the tips you've shared today, Jay. And I know that you mentioned right before we were recording this video, you're going to make one of your books available to the audience. So we're going to throw a link in the video description down below. Everyone can go over and grab a free copy of your book. And beyond that, if people want to follow along with you on your journey as a real estate investor, what's the best way to do so, or what's the best way to get in contact?
Absolutely. So, in fact, Matt, not only my new book, Private Money and you're going to give them the URL for that. You can download it, folks, or I'll actually mail you a hard copy and autograph it for you. But to follow me, I tell you what, I've got a new Private Money Academy membership that I just launched. And Matt, I can give all of your followers and listeners and viewers 4 weeks for free, and you get me twice a month talking about private money, and I answer your questions. If they want to take advantage of that for free, Matt, they can go to www.jayconner, Jayconner, I'm an ER, not an OR, jayconner.com/trial.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jay. Really appreciate you taking the time to just chat with us about private money. Very powerful concept. If as a real estate investor, you can internalize it and then just go out there and actually put in the work to raise that money. Definitely one of the fastest ways to scale your portfolio. Every investor at some point in time is going to have to start using OPM, other people's money, or OPR, other people's resources. I think a lot of us would be better served to jump ahead and really get into private money and raising it right from the start. So thanks again, Jay.
Thank you, Matt, for having me on. God bless you.
Thanks again to Jay for taking the time to break down for us exactly his approach to raising OPM. I know this can be a very intimidating subject matter for a lot of new investors, but it's absolutely crucial that you get accustomed and comfortable with this concept, because again, you can't do this only with your own money. At some point in time, you're going to have to depend on other people's money and OPR, other people's resources. So thanks again to Jay for taking the time to break down for us his exact approach when it comes to raising that OPM. If you guys have any questions about raising OPM, jump in that comment section down below. Hit me up. I'm more than happy to answer those questions, because I remember being that new investor who was really scared of asking friends and family for the opportunity to get access to their money so that I could go buy more real estate. So if you guys enjoyed this video, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel, and until next time, remember, making money is a team sport. There's more than enough money in this world for us to all make it, but if you're not saving it, I mean, like, what's the point? Thanks, guys.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.